Hello everyone, and welcome to GuildGab episode 91. This is all about the Path of Fire demo weekends, both the PvE and the PvP. I've got Inks and Alex here to talk about all of our impressions, and just discuss what we liked, what we didn't like, all of our feedback about those demo weekends. Starting the show here with some Path of Fire music. I love it. It's actually the Path of Fire theme.
I don't know. That's the outdated. I really should listen to Orange.
It's really good. It's really good.
The music is just it just sucked me back into Nightfall straight away. And even like when the second that you load up the game, we've got the new launcher, and then we've got the new backdrop for the character select screen, and that new music just starts coming through, and it just takes you back to Nightfall. And it's glorious, because for years and years in Guild Wars 1, we've got the Eye of the North back screen, but when Nightfall came out and you had the desert and the pyramids and the sand and the music,
Yeah.
I get the feeling we're going to be comparing a lot of things to Nightfall and
well, they
Guild Wars
took
1.
a lot of they obviously took a lot of inspirations from Nightfall, right?
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
I mean,
Yeah.
just from the music to the environments, to just the NPCs and the characters. And besides the throwbacks to Nightfall, one of, like, just first going into the zone and seeing the pyramids and just the new atmosphere, I felt a lot more of this sense of, like, wow, this is Guild Wars 2? Like, I was like, wow, like, this is very different. I think it be mostly because going into the jungle, I didn't really get that feeling as much, because there was a lot of already jungly atmospheres or environments.
Because we'd already had like Caledon and
right, and in
yeah.
season 2 we had a lot of lead up. We had the vines, and we had like a lot of the Mordremoth influence, even in like the Silver Wastes and Dry Top. Whereas we haven't really had Crystal Desert influences in the maps that were in season 3.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we've actually had quite
transition.
a number of varied environments in Living World Season 3, haven't we? We've had Bloodstone Fen, we've had Ember Bay, we've had Bitterfrost Frontier, we've had Lake Doric, we've had Draconis Mons, which I still think is probably the most interesting map of the 6 episodes. Not my favorite, but certainly the most interesting in what it tries to do. And then we had, that extension of Ore, which takes us all the way back to that original feel of Guild Wars 2. But yeah, getting there for the first time, and as you come in on the ship and you get the little cutscene about you flying across the desert, across the thing, which is weird, because as I was watching that, I was thinking, I know that Steve eats ships, but there's nothing in the lore, what he says he does to kind of the packed airships. So are we flying to Cantha now, or has someone set off, or
Right.
are we back there?
What's the excuse for not going to Cantha? But
yeah.
Well,
Cantha not confirmed.
It's kind of interesting, but one of the other reasons for not being able to get to Cantha, or shipping lane problems in general too, was that Zaitan's forces had these undead barges that would block the shipping lanes and stuff as well. So
Yeah.
we are just wiping out all the problems.
Yeah, we are.
yeah,
Keeping us from
Yeah.
Cantha, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess from both demo weekends, because we had, of course, the PvP one and the PvE one. PvP, did I say that right? You know what I mean. What was like the one thing that stood out the most in your mind? Like, I cannot wait to get back to this.
The land sharks. Sorry, they just
Yes.
really tickled me. They looked ridiculous, but so cool. And I know exactly what they were trying to do, and they just managed it perfectly. But in all seriousness, it was the explorable area of the Crystal Oasis that just took my breath away. I mean, I was expecting kind of deserty type stuff, but then when you I mean, the free city of Amnoon as well, just utterly gorgeous, and so much stuff to do in it. I mean, yeah, there was an Exo Gambler in there, which, cheeky buggers. But then you've got, like, there's so much stuff to do. Like, there's the bounties board, and you select a bounty, and you can go out and get one, but you can't select all of them at the same time, so you have to decide which one you want to do. And it all looks gorgeous. there's a bit where you come out of the last story instance, and you have to like jump over a little bridge, and then you come down the backside of a hill towards Amnoon, and then on the left there's like this little irrigated field, and just like the water shining off it and the green coming through. It just felt it just felt like it was it felt more alive than somewhere like Queensdale did, because even though you have the farms and everything now, it just felt a little bit more. I don't know. It just felt a little bit more together. Just felt a little bit more together.
I think you get more immersed because I feel like all of the environments, even just the effects on the water, are all like next level. Like, I think all of the environment artists really, like, they've been working on this game for years and years and years, and they've gotten better. And the tools that they use have gotten better. And they know how to use those resources and their own talents to improve something as simple as a water effect. So everything just seemed like it had just more polish on it than even over Heart of Thorns, the Heart of Thorns maps.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the way that the new maps are set out, that they've kind of shied away from the extremes of verticality that they had in Heart of Thorns. It's given them more of an opportunity to show off some of this fantastic artwork, because you've got those long draw distances, you've got those big vistas, and you can actually see all of that work laid out in front of you. Whereas the first time we were greeted with Verdant Brink, it was cool and it was very intricate, and you could find stuff like the giant log that goes through the center of their map in the Itzel village. But to me, you never got that huge sense of awe, like you were looking over something huge. And you only kind of got that when you got to like the very top of the canopy or looks over the blighting tree or something like that. And but no, this map's got it. This map's got it, and I'm very excited.
What awed you, Inks?
Oh,
for me, it's a lot of little things. So
it's
you lost your audio there. There you go. You're back.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was strange. For me, it's a lot of the little things. It's like there's a Hollowsmith fight, for example, where he'll come in and he'll use some of his abilities that you really get to see for the first time, and then afterwards he'll sort of walk off, and you can talk to him about his job, what a Hollowsmith is, where they get their energy from, and so forth. There's a Mirage as well, but she's not involved in like an event or a fight, so you get to fight like alongside this elite specialization when most players probably wouldn't have that unlocked just yet, or at least certainly not in the demo. There's lots of little things like the Amnoon sort of like city meta where you need to collect coins.
Yeah.
And the coins are like
casino coins. That's so much fun.
Yeah, and the coins are just all over the place. They're in all these different weird sort of situations, and there's a lot of creativity players can put forth with their mounts / gliders, really, and to get some of these coins and sort of collect. And it's like a large collective thing. It's not anything that's difficult like an Octovine necessarily, but it's just sort of this free, carefree sort of event that happens. There's one where there's a sand shark pit, and the sand shark pups break out of the pit. Yes. They break the fence and they escape, and then you've got to CC them and throw them back into the pit. And there's just a lot of little fun events like that. And that doesn't even talk about the I was gonna call them the demo bosses, the bounty bosses. There's a lot of different bounties, which some of them you can probably solo, others you can certainly duo very easily. And then of course there's the legendary bounty, which there's at least 3 legendary bounties, only one of which we've seen so far, that take quite a bit more. Now they're not world boss level necessarily, but they're fun. I don't know, I think they're fun events that are continuously happening. Like a bounty doesn't happen every hour. It happens all the time. There's always something on the bounty board for you to go and do. So you're not necessarily waiting for anything to happen, and I really love that. Besides the atmosphere of the map, which I think is fantastic. Obviously I'm a big sort of Egyptian culture fan, and so the pyramids are really well done. I felt like there's this story that you know, you're not quite sure, is it Palo Joko or is it Krakatorik, because this big sandstorm came through and like destroyed the homes and misplaced a lot of these people, buried the tombs and stuff even deeper. So there's just a really big feel to the map, and the way in which the raptor sort of plugs into the map itself too really lends to some of the greatness, I think, of the map. Now, that also means that this map feels a little bit smaller when you're traveling around on the mount and such, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, as long as there's lots of events to do and lots of things to get off the mount for. And I think that this map, with what we've seen, about 55-60%, does like a really good job of that so far. I was constantly getting off my mount. I didn't have to. I could just ride off into the sunset if I wanted to, but there was lots of stuff that made me want to dismount and say, oh, well, what is this event? What is this one doing? Let's talk to these people and so forth. And so I think that's actually a pretty good mix there. And one last thing is, when we got Verdant Brink, I always said with Heart of Thorns that I felt a little bit out of order with introductions to players in the new environment. I always felt like Arc Basin would have been a better place to start, and then you sort of get into Verdant Brink, because I felt like it eased players into gliding a little bit better. And I feel like the Crystal Oasis does a really good job of that. It's sort of it's kind of a flatter kind of map. You know, there's not a whole ton of verticality because of the Raptor. I feel like the events aren't too overwhelming or crazy or anything like that, which certainly has attracted its own criticism, because people want to see some of these world events, or this is supposed to be a content-rich release, and people want to see where's the content, right? Obviously. But I think that this is a good map to start with, and we'll have to see, you know, what the other four maps bring to the fold.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, it was a 2-day demo, and there's so much to do. There's so much to do in that little slice. And yeah, you know, you could probably blast through it in a few hours. You can run the story in a whole bunch of characters and play around with the raptors and everything. But even, I mean, I logged in on the Monday morning, and there were still people legging it around, like having raptor races and all that kind of thing. And you know, I think that. Just like in Guild Wars 1, when Kamadan became the place to hang out after Lion's Arch and Kaineng, I think that somewhere like Amnoon is a serious contender to actually be relocated as the main Guild Wars 2 city. If it wasn't for the aerodrome and fractals, I think that it would be in with a serious chance.
Wow.
It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's a gorgeous city.
And one thing I do want to address with the mounts, though, while we're talking about them, is that they handle like absolute crap. It's like I think they're really unresponsive. And bear in mind, I have one of these, and I have like the DPI turned up to like 8,000. So.
I think that's the point, though, is that they don't. It's supposed to feel different than controlling your character. Mount. I think you're used to other MMOs, and a lot of people, and I've heard this response from a lot of people, and I think Inks had the same thought, where you had a lot of trouble controlling the mount at first. You're like, this doesn't feel right. We've never had anything like this in Guild Wars 2, whether it's gliders or the toys, anything. We've always had the control of our characters. And if you're coming from mounts from other MMOs, the vast majority of them, they, whether you're on no mount or not, it operates like your character. You can turn on a dime, and but when you play The Witcher 3, when you play Zelda and you're on a horse, it feels different. The control is different because it feels like you're controlling an animal. Feels like you're controlling the animal that you're on. They're not going to turn on a dime. And that's the feel that Guild Wars 2 went for with the mounts in the game. Weirdly, that is exactly my problem. It's the turning circle of the raptor. It's really, really frustrating. I mean, again, you're absolutely right. It's me just going, no,
No, I want to do a hairpin turn 3 feet. You know.
But raptors don't do hairpin turns. That's the thing. I love it. It did take me. I had the same, like, for the first hour. I was like, it took me a while to get used to it, you know, because it's a new control scheme, and I have a feeling that every mount is going to control differently. The skimmer is not going to control like the raptor. The jackal is not going to feel like any of the other mounts.
I hope so.
So each one, I think, is going to have their own feel. I saw from an interview, the skimmer is supposed to act kind of like a drag car, where you're kind of like skimming around, turns and stuff, so it feels like you're actually like racing on something. I give them a lot of credit for that, because they very easily could have just given it the exact same feel as being on your character, and sure, people might have been fine with that, but I give them a lot of credit for going the extra mile and making it feel different.
Yeah, and they could have just done like, 100% speed boost, off you pop. And
right.
I was one of those people who was very, very anti-mount when it came to Guild Wars 2, because I thought that, you know, this is one of the things that we've got going. We've got cosmetic rewards that aren't centered around, you know, different kinds of animal and that kind of thing. And when all the chat started about mounts coming into the game, I thought, oh great, we're going to have, you know, people sitting on giant ridiculous dragons in cities and not really have anything to do with it apart from get around a little bit. But the way that and you know, to be fair, that still might be the case a little bit in Corteria, but the way that it's been implemented into the maps is I'm actually really, really happy with it. And I'm not a huge fan of mounts when it comes to my MMOs, but despite my kind of dislike for the fact that it's a bit meh when you try and steer it, I just think they're great. Like, I think the Raptor is really well done, and when we're playing the story mission, I really like the way that it kind of that it incorporated itself into what you're doing. You know, the bit where you have to run around and then jump up and then put out the bit that's on fire and then tame the raptors.
You have to use the raptor to get to the areas that you need to get to finish the heart. Yeah,
I thought it was great, and rather than just having kind of token raptor thing here you go, you know, it's actually involved in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was really cool, and the story in general, I thought it was all right. It's like decent opening chapter. You got introduced to the new bad guys. The Herald fight I didn't really get, because I thought it was a little bit easy, and I got that achievement about avoiding the big splash attack without really trying. And if there's one thing that I like, it's taking attacks straight on in the face. And you know, and it was interesting. I mean, it was kind of like basic mechanics, so hopefully the final fight will be a little bit more complex. I mean, it's sure. It's obvious we're going to face off against the Herald further on down the story before we get to Balthazar. And
there's an interesting correlation between that instance and the first one you get in Heart of Thorns, where you're fighting the guy on the raptor. You're fighting the guy on the mount.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
You dismount him and you fight him. The fight is nearly identical, actually. It's pretty close. It's not really supposed to be challenging or whatever, you know, stay at ranged, and it's really not that big a deal, I guess. But I didn't really pick up on it at first, but I've seen people talking about it, and I'm like, it's been so long since I played the Heart of Thorns story that I'm like, yeah, that is like, that's very, very similar, you know. You know, I did a whole video on this about Ritlock and Casimir and that whole thing. I think that, you know, in Season 3, ArenaNet, I think during Heart of Thorns, actually, ArenaNet figured out that after Heart of Thorns, they can no longer really afford to have so many characters on screen at one time, because they don't get any screen time, right? You don't get to learn about the character or interact with them or talk with them, and they sort of sit stagnant throughout the story. And so this time around, just like Season 3, we're getting like 2 or maybe 3 characters at a time for a story piece. So this time around, we get we'll ignore Timey because she's on the telephone all the time, but we get Ritlock and we get Casimir this time. And there's this real sort of odd conversation with Ritlock. Had we not had the trailer that they gave us, where Ritlock tells us a story, that interaction would have probably made me, a little bit, I don't want to say upset because that's not the right word, but it would have irked me a bit, because he goes through this story on how he doesn't need the blindfold, which I think kind of stinks, but he doesn't need the blindfold anymore because it was only to focus his powers. All right, fair enough.
Which we know nothing about, by the way. Still.
And he tells us that, oh yes, he's still a Tribune. He had to go to the Black Citadel and tell his story. And we're like, and I love that ArenaNet addresses what the players have already been addressing for a long time. And that's, well, what about us? I thought we had a close bond. You told me to form Dragon's Watch, and you're like, this fighter mentor-y sort of character to our character. And he's just like, yeah, no, not really gonna.
No, it was fine.
Not important. It's fine.
Yeah,
but
put it
and you talk to him again later, and he's like, yeah, I'll tell you, don't worry, but later, not now.
Later,
but not now.
It's always later.
Yeah. So if you didn't know you were getting that story later, I think that would have probably sat a lot more uneasy with people than it really did. But I don't know. It's an interesting interaction there, but at the same time, it's just like, just tell us,
It's yet another.
And I realize
throwing it in the face of the player.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I realize it's not the time to tell us, but it's funny that they brought it up right at the beginning, only to lead us further down,
But the very first story instance, we get Ritlock back, which he just kind of left in the middle of season 3, and then he finally comes back, and so it's like, he comes back, and it's like we want to address that, because that is, with Ritlock right now, that's the number one thing that the players want to know is we've been asking this since Heart of Thorns, tell us about your time in the Mists, and I love when they put the players' thoughts into the player character's dialogue. I mean, they said, you need to tell us, and it actually said, like, this is the last time I'm going to ask you. It's like, this is it. Like, next time I ask you, you better tell me. That was kind of like the impression that I got. Like, I'm done. The player character was like, I'm done with this, telling me later. And like you said, seeing the trailer, knowing that we are going to get that story, because they actually showed Ritlock in the Mists, and he said, what I found was something else. And so I'm positive we're finally going to get at least a portion of the story. And so I think it's nice that dialogue set that up, saying, like, this is the last time I'm going to ask you. This is the last time I'm going to accept later as an answer, I think is more of what the player character said. And I was so happy with that dialogue.
Can just imagine the next time we ask and we go, I'll tell you later. We're like, all right, fine, whatever. We're going to kill a dragon. Then we're like, no, come back. I have mystique that needs answering. I wanted to address something. I put this in a spoilers channel of a Discord that we're all part of. Casimir is now Lady Casimir Mead, and she's labeled as such in Amnoon
She got
Oasis.
her ladyship back.
Yeah, which makes sense.
She got her ladyship back.
She is a noble again.
She's a noble again.
Oh, man, Casimir is so frustrating to me.
So
Her and Marjorie both.
So that'll
really
take us to the end of season 4 to find out how that happened. Are they still together? Are they on a break? Is this like,
no.
Like
Well,
a
that's
Ross and Rachel situation.
Jeez, Ross and Rachel. Yeah, they're friends. Jeez, we're not far off, right? And how terrible that was. But they're such frustrating characters for me because, number one, I don't really care about the relationship. To be fair, I don't really care about the relationship of any characters within the game because I just don't think that they're done very well. And I feel like their whole relationship problem arc that we're going through was just shoehorned into Heart of Thorns because they didn't have enough screen time for both of those characters. And then in season 3, Casimir, which can be an interesting story, is off doing Casimir's stuff for the Queen, for Anise, and so forth. But then she gets this. She has the potential to be great, but ArenaNet allows her to continue to be a coward, and it grates on me. To just like how Taimi is the opposite of Casimir, she is the hero to end all heroes. Casimir is the coward to end all cowards, because she has these moments where she could really rise up and cause massive amounts of damage. She can be a real player and contender, and she has these other points. She has these other points where she's just like, she's not fit for the battlefield. She just glazes out, and she just, I can't deal. I gotta get out of here, even though I've been gone all season. And she just pops away. And even still, she brings up the fact that I can't believe the gods would betray us. And I understand that that's like supposed to be part of her character, but it's just not fully believable. And Marjorie and Casimir both suffer from the same thing, where ArenaNet set them up to be larger than life characters. Marjorie, for example, started off as this sultry detective who was just really successful at what she did and a bit of a badass, right? But now she's been reduced to this, I'm an independent person, I answer to nobody, even though I get smited by everybody we encounter. And I just...
Well, she was supposed to die, though, wasn't she? And she was...
Originally, yeah.
Well, and
it was rewritten.
And they changed it. But even if they kill her now, I won't care. Because
nobody cares. Nobody cares about the Delaquas, man. It's like...
You've put them in danger twice now, right? You've almost killed her twice. So even when she does recover and comes back into the story, you've turned her from this intelligent, strong detective character into this idiot who runs off into danger and does, like, it's just as bad as how people get mad about Bram's character change, right? And him acting like a child. Yeah. Marjorie's not that different. She's acting like, you know, this brash teenager who runs off into danger and doesn't call home to tell him you're going to be home for dinner. I don't answer nobody.
To be fair, though, like,
it's just like you're destroying the character.
Marjorie, on the other hand, is actually quite powerful because she manages to survive a bitch slap by Balthazar.
Yeah, she's just...
I think that moment, thinking back on it, wouldn't the moment of Balthazar's reveal where Casimir like goes to tatters, wouldn't that have been so much more impactful if Casimir's, like, even like when she shows back up in season 3, showed herself to be this transformed, really badass, really awesome, like, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna be this really powerful, awesome character, and then you see her go to tatters, it would be like, whoa, like, this is serious. But Casimir was always kind of this meek, you know, I'm gonna click. I love her. I mean, Casimir's one of my favorite characters, but she's kind of this, you know, this meek, shy, I'm gonna like follow, like a follower character, when she really could be a leader. I feel like...
Right, and she has this, and this is what disappoints me about this couple and this characters. They have this redemption story within them, right? Like you said, Casimir is this meek. She's lost in the world because her family is destroyed. She doesn't know where she belongs or fits. And in season 2, she gets a taste of, well, she can restore her name, which is very important to her and her character. And when push comes to shove in season 1/season 2, she stands up and fights. She overcomes that fear and anxiety, and she fights for the people she loves. And that's endearing. But then in season 3, during Heart of Thorns, she does and says nothing really. But in season 3, you pull the rug out from under the player and you take it away from us. And she's back to being this cowardly, can't deal with the situation kind of person. Like, you built her up and now you're just breaking her back down as a character. And it's frustrating to watch and listen to. For me,
I want the Casimir back, like Synchrony says, on the Breachmaker when Marjorie went down and she went up to Scarlet. That is the most badass I've ever seen Casimir. Yeah. She just went on Scarlet and she's just like taunting her. That was so amazing, and that was a beautiful moment. Like, that's one of the moments I fell absolutely in love with Casimir, because I was like, she's capable of this. And you would think that from that point on, she would have continued to be that strong character, like that turning point. I feel like ArenaNet they put these opportunities in the story for these characters to have these turning points and become these really badass characters, but then they don't continue with it. Like, they go back to, they have that high point and then they go back to who they were. Like, keep them up there. And then when things rattle them, that makes it even more impactful.
Canuck is a good example of the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Because he starts out as this character who doesn't seem like he can be redeemable, because he goes around and he's
returned South Sun
for perhaps justifiable reasons, but he's a murderer, and he goes to prison and he does his bit with a niece and he finally gets free, and he sort of builds up to that moment of where, yes, he's doing her bidding because he has to, because he has his own personal goal in mind, but there's character growth there, and it's not a logical character growth. It feels natural, and it feels like, people were a bit bummed, myself included, that he wouldn't join Dragon's Watch, but that totally makes sense. That's his character. He spent all this time sort of in prison and shackled and doing the bidding of somebody else, that he's done with that, right? He is more of what Bram is supposed to represent, which is this lone wolf sort of character. And that makes, besides the good delivery of his snarkiness, that makes him, I think, a good character, or a pretty good character. And some of the others, like, they have that potential, like Aurora was saying, but they just don't deliver on it. And they build them up, and then it's like you get to they have this progression you think that they're heading, and rather than it be like, oh, what a twist, this crazy thing happened, it's just like, nope, we're gonna just break them back down to their basic character, which wasn't that interesting to begin with. I think
that where we saw a lot of development with Canuck, and I guess with Keith as well, was obviously season 2 and the Heart of Thorns as well, and kind of bled over into season 3. But I always thought that kind of, aside from season 1 and, well, I guess even season 1, but Core Tyria seems like, to me, it's going to be continuing the human side of the story. And for the last kind of couple of years, we've been so hey kitty idiot. We've been so focused on the Sylvari side of things that we see kind of character developments like even like Traherne to some extent, who did sort of thaw my cold dead heart a little bit towards the end of Heart of Thorns. You've seen Keith's character arc, which I thought was actually very well done, and and then we got Canuck as well. But now that we're going back to the Crystal Desert, where so much of the original Prophecy story kind of takes place, we're now looking at fighting one of the human gods. There's so much more opportunity to develop the humans there. I mean, you've got us, we've got Cass, we've got Jory, we've got hopefully Ritlock, we've got all this stuff about Livia. I'd love it if the Master of Whispers made an appearance.
I don't think we're going to see any more Livia. I think that was it.
Yeah.
I hope so.
At least not for a long time.
Right, but right. She might show up way down the line, but I think that was it.
But that just reinforces the point that I made the last time I was on GuildGab about how the frustration with some of the previous narrative structure, that you reintroduce an amazing and important character like Lazarus, or you introduce somebody like Livia, and then you take them away.
There's so many characters already. Now, I love them going back to those old storylines and continuing them and wrapping them up. Like, I think that's amazing. But the more characters you bring in, like you said, like it looks like we're gonna get like mostly Casimir and Ritlock, and they weren't in like Heart of Thorns or season 3 that much. So it's kind of like, all right, Bram, Marjorie, Rox has kind of always been in the background, but it's like, all right, you guys are, you guys had your expansion and your season to shine. Let's focus on these other characters, because you need that characterization. The more screen time that they get, the more we're gonna connect with them, the more we're gonna fall in love with them, or
that's true.
Timey maybe. learned to hate them. But I love Timey. I just hope it's not a case. I hope it's not a case of, as far as them, not wanting to take these characters to the next level as far as like they're badass. I hope it's not a case of them not wanting these characters to overshine the player character. I hope it's not a case of that, because there's a right way to do that. Like, and I think the finale of season 1 was the perfect way to do that. Casimir went super badass. She was like, she showed her true power. She showed her true power multiple times with revealing the Nightmare Tower. Like, season 1 was a phenomenal time for Casimir to shine and show how powerful she is. But nothing she did while being super badass overshadowed what the player character did. The player character still went into the Nightmare Tower to defeat them. The player character still was the one to stomp Scarlet. So it was still the player characters who shined, who was the hero at the end of the day, even though the NPCs showed how amazing they could be as well.
Yeah. Speaking of sort of season 1 stuff, so check this out. Do you want to talk about what was in
the gem store?
In the gem.
That's all right.
store.
We can hop around topics. That's
yeah.
Those gem store boxes, season 1 boxes. They still haven't brought back my Tequatl wings. I still have time to have my Tequatl wings.
Did you not get them during Boss Week back in?
No, that's what I mean. I have the Tequatl wings. And you can't get the Tequatl wings unless you were there. So they brought back a couple things. I think the halo and the horns they brought back in these boxes.
They
brought back the molten jetpack. That's like, I mean,
I have it. I have it. It's mine.
Have you bought it, Inks? Molten jetpack.
Yeah. Somebody, Royce actually graciously sent me a jetpack.
Awesome.
Yeah. I finally got my jetpack after all this time.
What was it? 4 years? 4 years we've been waiting for that jetpack.
Yeah, a long time.
But there's a lot of really great stuff certainly in one of the boxes in that first one. There's just a whole host of wonderful, wonderful bits and pieces and lovely little collectibles and all that kind of stuff that, again, like there was thinking, oh, I really wish I'd picked that up at the time. Or for people who weren't around, just seeing all of this really cool stuff that you could kind of pick up, especially if you don't go and visit the festival vendor who has a whole bunch of this other previous stuff.
Well, that's the thing. The festival vendor has a lot of that stuff from season 1. But with these boxes, even though it is RNG, they brought back even more stuff that plain wasn't available, not even on the trading post. The shattered dragon wings are back in the game.
I know. Where did those come from originally?
The Shatterer update, or no, Dragon Bash. It was Dragon Bash. Then there was 2 of them, holographic and shattered.
There's the holographic ones that dropped,
have always been available. The shattered, you had to be there until now. Now they're available in that box. Yeah. And I've said my opinion on this on my stream multiple times. But the short version is, I like there being exclusive stuff. I don't like them bringing back the exclusive stuff. I think how they should do it now is there is a time limit, like you had to be there while it's live, but it should be a different color. And then if you get it after that event has gone away, it's a different color. So they don't have to like design a whole separate back piece or a whole separate whatever it is. It's simply a different color. So if you have the red one, then it means you were there. But you can still get it. It'll just be gold or whatever, then you can get it no matter when. I think that's the perfect solution. So then people who are there, they have their exclusive thing, but ArenaNet doesn't have to design like a completely separate thing where people, say, I couldn't get it because I wasn't there. I couldn't play, any of the legitimate, complaints about, well, that's not fair that these characters have that. Sure, you can get it whenever you want. It's just a different color. That's how I think it should work.
Yeah.
I like my exclusive stuff. Mad Memories.
It's
Mad
interesting.
Memoirs,
Mad
yeah.
Memoirs.
They've not brought that back, have they?
No.
They're
The
it feels a
original
little bit like a
scavengers.
double dip to me. It feels like a double Black Lion chest dip in a way. And I feel like you could have easily wrapped these chests into a new Black Lion chest.
That would have I think that would have
But
created more controversy if they'd done that. To me, that would have. Do you remember what happened with the Mad King's chests back way back on the first Halloween event? They stuck a load of premium rewards inside the Black Lion chest, and it got mixed up within like the standard boosters and all that kind of nonsense. And so in the end, they had to make a separate container.
right, but that's they've learned since then, right? I think there's good aspects to this new chest, the sprockets idea that actually the list, which is a lot like the mini claim tickets.
Yeah,
And I think a system like that is actually needed for the actual Black Lion chest, because there's this problem of either getting stuff you already have or getting stuff that maybe you don't really need, that it would be nice if you could trade that in. I mean, in this case, you can't trade it in for sprockets. That's sort of random, but it would be nice if you could trade those in for sprockets or whatever you want to call it. And then you can choose from a list of other rewards that you can either sell on the trading post or keep for yourself or whatever. And these rewards can change and rotate depending on, what the flavor of the month is. So they want to do a season 1 callback or a season 2 callback. Sure. Okay. That's cool. That's fine.
well, they don't need to do it with season 2, do they? Because it's
well, no,
should still all be earnable.
You can go play it, but you sort of get my point. Maybe they can do a Halloween callback, which by now I sort of expect when Halloween and Winter's Day comes around that any of those skins that have been locked away for so long that we're probably going to get in this new form of Black Lion chest.
Probably. They'll have a Halloween box and they'll have a Winter's Day box.
Sure. And Greedy Ink says, "Who cares? I want my jetpack, so I like it." But from regular Ink's perspective, it's still RNG. You still have a very high potential of not getting what you want, and there's always that chance that these things are just not really going to pay out very well for you.
I have
certainly my luck was not very. I mean, I did get what I wanted eventually, so that is sort of the plus side of this verse Black Lion chests. But certain rewards, of course, like let's say for example, a mini Molten Firestorm. Now, when he drops from that first chest, he is account bound, so that is pure just RNG. But if you want a jetpack or a mini Karka, you can open enough chest or Dragon Wings or a Halo, whatever. You can open enough chests and get those things eventually. It might take you a long time and a lot of money, but it's not like you're relying on pure RNG like the Elemental Sword, which was an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite lucky. I managed to get just about everything that I wanted out of the chest. So I got the jetpack. I managed to. I did see a lot of people in the guild chats that I have open say that they were always getting 1 or 2 sprockets every time they opened a chest, and they'd open like 30 chests and have 36 sprockets. I think I opened about 30 or 35 chests, and I got just over 230.
It's all RNG.
I mean, you got pretty lucky, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could get the jetpack, I could get the mini car, get the cargo hatch, and get the thoughtless potion. Sorry, the selfless potion. And
there's something else too. If you unlock an item that should already be unlocked on your account, let's take for example the dragon helmet, right? From the first box. If that's already unlocked on your account, it shouldn't drop another one. It should actually give you sprockets instead.
Right.
I don't know how many, but
yeah.
And if that doesn't happen because some people are reporting that that's not working properly, then you need to submit a ticket to customer service and explain.
Wait, it's supposed to work like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
just like from Black Lion chests, you get two Black Lion keys if you get the same skin.
Right. Yeah. Now I don't know if that applies to miniatures as well, but anything that is account bound that is already unlocked for the account, you shouldn't drop twice for you, basically.
Oh.
Maybe you know, maybe don't click so fast or something. I don't know how it messes up or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't know how it messes up, but if that happens,
Oh.
then, you know, submit a ticket to customer service. Maybe it messed up for you or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's good. Yeah, because I heard a lot of people saying, you know, oh, I you know, got a mini that was already unlocked, so that's just a wasted slot. But if you get sprockets, then there, you know, then that's fine. That's you know, that's currency that you can use. I ended up getting, like, someone gifted me 10 boxes, and oh my gosh, I think I got like 5 minis that I didn't have. I was just getting like mini after mini after mini. All account bound, of course. But I don't think I got any duplicates, unless I did and it gave me sprockets and I just didn't realize, you know.
Right.
But I opened them very slowly. I didn't like click them super fast. I don't know, maybe that is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that is confirmed that it's a glitch. Huh.
Yeah. I don't think it was a cool little thing. Certainly something I don't think I certainly wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of cool, and they're kind of sneaky as well, because they give you a free one to lure you in.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, you don't have enough sprockets to get your jetpack."
Oh, you only got one sprocket, huh? That's a little bit shame.
You only need 99 more, and you could get some more.
You could open one box and get 99 and have that.
I do wish that they had and this is I wish that there was a price between 1 and 10, like a 5-pack instead of a 10-pack. But nitpicky, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think the only reason I say that is I think, like, and I'm usually very much against this sort of thing, but I'm trying to help you out, ArenaNet. If you're trying to make money, people will commit to a 5-pack over a 10-pack, generally speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
if they open one and their luck was crappy, or maybe it was mediocre, or heck, maybe it was good, then they're like, well, I'll buy 5 more. 10's too much, but 5, you know, I can.
Yeah.
I'll spend 5 worth at a slight discount, you know, a bundle price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how the chests work, right? There's a medium, and then there's a big bundle, a medium bundle, and then a single key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
More RNG. So yeah, I'm not. The biggest thing is I'm fine with RNG boxes. Like, I don't, you know, you don't have to buy them. Yes, there's some exclusive stuff in there now. They give you a free one, which is nice. But yeah. So my biggest thing was the skins, the exclusive skins coming back, which I'm not for it. I'm not against it. So I don't know.
Don't care. Got the jetpack.
Speaking of items, going back to the demo weekend, unidentified gear is a thing now.
Yeah.
And
I like
it.
it.
A lot of misinformation on how it works exactly.
Really?
See,
What are people confused about?
Well, there were so many threads on Reddit about how this is a terrible system. It's the worst thing ever. People didn't think that other drops still happened. Like, they thought you only got rares and exotics by unidentified gear. And if that were true, hey, I agree with you. That would be terrible, but that isn't true. I do think unidentified gear is a bit... It doesn't solve the problem that I was hoping it would solve as rewards anymore. Like, if I want to go and do that stuff, I can just break it down for raw material instantly, fine. If I want to go and take my chance... then you pay a little bit, and hey, you're going to get mostly blues and greens, but every once in a while you also get the rares, and some of the set pieces that you need for collections and stuff come out of unidentified gear.
Yeah.
So I think overall the system is not too bad, but I did notice in these maps that they just... Inventory wars is still a very real thing. They just bloat your inventory. Not only with regular drops plus unidentified gear, but there's all kinds of karma drops now and mastery point drops, and there's all this stuff that drops that you just have to end up consuming. I was getting salvageable items of different kinds, and it's just like, why are all these... Like, it's flavor-wise, okay, I get it, it's cool, right? You know, this is a salvageable piece, and this is a salvageable piece. Just combine them. Give me one salvage. Like I don't
Yeah.
need all of this extra stuff necessarily. And it doesn't.
But
Like getting those
solves the
materials is
rune.
nice.
It solves the problem of the runes and the sigils filling up your inventory. Because if you salvage the unidentified gear, then you get the materials, but you don't get those runes and sigils. But you don't have the chance to get the rares. If you identify them, you have the chance to get the rares and and exotics.
That's true.
I just think that I like the system. I just think that it's not needed because we have the mass salvaging now. It's like real quick to just salvage everything. It does give you those runes and sigils. I think the best thing about it is that they gave you another reason to do the hearts every day, because you can take it to a heart vendor and they're the ones, if you complete the heart, then and those hearts are repeatable, just like the recent maps, then it gives you a reason to complete a heart, and because they're the ones that will identify it for you. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to play around with it too much. I didn't get that drop during the demo weekend. But yeah, from what I've seen, I think it's an interesting excuse me, bit of a callback to Guild Wars 1. And I think it could be.
And you don't have to identify everything separately. Like Guild Wars 1,
absolutely.
that was the worst thing about unidentified gear in
God.
Guild Wars 1. Double click the identification, click, double click, double click, the salvage
click
to everything. There's no mass identification.
Right, and people are bringing up a couple of points. Like if you don't identify the gear, then you don't get luck from it. I don't think either. That's actually a good thing for me until they do something with luck. For most people, that's probably not true. But...
I'm still working my way up to 300, man. I'm on like 200 and something, I think.
Well, that's because you're a slacker.
It is. I am a slacker. I've got other games to play.
So what about the second demo weekend, the PvP, the elite specializations?
I'm gonna let you two tell. I didn't actually get to play very much of it. All I know is that Deadeye is overpowered as all hell. That is pretty much it, and lots of it's Condi.
I did. I of course went and I did a really in-depth read absolutely everything, every skill on Firebrand. But then I went and played a single PvP match with every spec, and that was kind of my test. And as far as Deadeye goes, I think that's the one I had the most fun with. That surprised me. I don't normally play Thief, and I was like, I'm not gonna know what to do on Deadeye. I'm just gonna push buttons. But I understood how to do the rifle 5, go into crouch mode, go from a distance, mark someone. That was the one that surprised me the most. That I actually had a lot of fun with in the one match that I played. It's wow, this is pretty cool. I feel like Widowmaker. I'm sniping people from the corner. It was fun.
Cool. But did you get to test out the Guardian? Did you get to test out Firebrand?
Oh yeah. Firebrand is exactly what Guardian needed. It's exactly what Guardian needed. It's it's way more complicated. It's got a lot of skills, a lot of you can go into the different tomes. It's I think it's going to be good for either or both Condi and support. Really excited to see what builds the community comes up with and whether I can use it in raids. That's all I really care about, is I want to be able to use it in raids.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of from what I've seen, the look of everything looks cool. Like Weaver looks pretty awesome. Hollowsmith looks amazing.
I had a lot of fun on Hollowsmith. I was surprised.
I've been seeing people who have had no interest in Engineer just pick up Hollowsmith and just be like, "Yep,
that's
this is the
something
bomb."
That overall, I've heard a lot of people say that one of the elite specs that's not normally on a class that they normally play, they're like, I think I might switch. There's a lot of people that have said, oh, I think I'm going to go this or this, and I don't play that.
I think Holosmith could end up being the surprise elite spec, for the expansion.
I had fun on it.
I think it's
there's
really
a
gonna,
couple. I think there's a couple
like-
where people felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
Scourge was another one where I think people were a little surprised on how much they sort of enjoyed that gameplay right now.
Oh, it's because it's got the barrier mechanic as well, hasn't it? Built into the Scourge.
That's huge
Well,
on the.
Yeah, and you don't have a shroud anymore, so you're
Yeah.
dealing with the sand people, the sand shrouds, whatever they're called.
The sand people.
The sand faces.
The Tuscan
The-
Raiders.
The sand shrouds. Yeah, I don't know. The weekend was enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. I think that I have to say I like the new lobby layout less now after this weekend because I feel like things are more cramped. Now, obviously, this is sort of a one-off thing, right? This is not going to be normal for the Mists. You're not going to see that. You're not going to see this many people there. But regardless, a lot of the golems are really close together. There's only 2 indestructible golems, which the number of golems is not really any different from what was on the old map. But you had a little bit more room, I felt like, on the old map. Maybe that's just poor perception on my part, but it felt like things were too cramped together. Certainly, when you're fighting the professions, like if I'm fighting a thief or a ranger or whatever, like some of those guys feel really close together.
Yeah, it's got that verticality thing that they like, but and it looks cooler than the old lobby, but I think part of what I would have preferred is if we'd had access to the DPS golem as well over the weekend, because I was saying this to Peachy before we went live, that just kind of hanging around the instance waiting for a golem to free up so I could have it.
Like you said, there was
there.
an exceptional amount of people in the lobby, and they were all testing their skills and stuff, so that's going to be less once it actually launches.
That's true.
And I feel like at the very least we should have gotten the PvE golem, a singular golem where I can practice and take my time and not feel rushed or interrupted, but constantly interrupted when I'm trying to see what kind of damage something does. What would have been really, really nice is if we would have had the demo Crystal Oasis demo map back again, just to run around with these.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really understand why we didn't get that, because we're using demo characters. We're not using our actual characters, are we? I just thought it was a bit weird.
I don't know. And again, maybe it's some technical thing that they had set up. It's just a bit strange to me.
Yeah.
Now you could go into World vs. World, and there's some nitpicky complaints about how gear should have worked, which is really just a carryover from Heart of Thorns. But let's just say fair enough. But it was over the weekend, and on a Friday night reset, trying to get into World vs. World for some people, for some worlds, depends what world you're on, I guess, is already a difficult thing. And now you're trying to get in with these demo specs to try them out, which fair enough. But now you got to fight against the queue, and I don't know. So the weekend was a little bit annoying for me, I guess. That has nothing to do with the elite specs. That's just the demo itself. General impression.
It was just a very odd choice just to have it PvP and World v World, I think.
Sure.
Wouldn't have minded a PvE map, but I'm assuming we're going to get that in the next demo that we get.
The elite specs themselves. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'd hope so.
Unless they change their minds, it doesn't appear so.
I think that having a demo where you can't test out the elite specs in PvE for all and sundry, I think not having that would be a bit daft, because one of the everyone wants to check out the new styles of play, and if like we've just been saying, if someone says, "Oh, I'm not too keen on engineer," but I like the look of the Holosmith, I want to try that out. And even if it is just you get thrown into a level 80 zone and you get to kind of jump around on it a little bit, I think that would be a fantastic idea. So we get to test out the elite specs. New players get to see what this whole mastery system's all about. And if they like it, they go, "Ooh, hey, I might buy Heart of Thorns as well," and pick up those masteries too.
Yeah, I've had a lot of questions the past couple weeks, that, ever since it launched, and over the demo weekends, about, new players and free-to-play players. What do I get with Heart of Thorns? What do I get with POF? Understanding, what gliding comes with Heart of Thorns and mounts come with POF. And I think it's a good system, and it encourages new players. It's kind of neat how the things that come with the mastery system, you can kind of say very quickly, these are the features of Heart of Thorns. These are the features of Path of Fire. And, if you want gliding, then you have to buy this. And if you want mounts, you have to buy this. I think mounts are going to be huge, bringing those back into the core game, and free-to-play players and people who don't have POF, seeing people riding around on raptors and skimmers and jackals. I think that's going to be huge to sell that expansion.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's going to be great, and that, I'd love to have another demo weekend just to mess around. And
the elite specs themselves, numbers aren't really as important to me. It's important for ArenaNet because things need to be balanced. Everything needs to be balanced. It's either undertuned or overtuned, or nothing is ever going to be just right, generally speaking. Some of the classes that I was hoping would blow my hair back didn't really. I will say that I think ArenaNet did a pretty good job as far as flavor of the elite specializations, as long as it doesn't hinder gameplay mechanics, which at this point it's a little unclear to me whether it does or doesn't. But I think that is sort of a step forward than it was for Heart of Thorns, where it was just like, you're now a druid, have fun, right? As opposed to, you're a hollowsmith, and you use Zephyrite crystals to power your Hollow Forge.
So cool.
And blah, 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 right? And for some people, that kind of stuff won't matter, but I think that adds to the world building.
Oh, yeah.
The specs themselves, some of them are really, really strong because numbers are really high, plus interaction in particular game modes. Hollowsmith is a standout that's really strong. Scourge, I think, turns out to be pretty powerful as far as where we got to test it. Others are not so powerful, like Renegade, for example, probably going to be an awesome PvE spec, not so amazing in PvP necessarily. And Soul Beast, which is obviously the one I spent the most time on, not so amazing in PvP, but is obviously going to have a place in PvE gameplay. Now, I can't talk in super big detail about a lot of them. I did play all of them. I tested them out, wanted to see what the skills were like. At this point, I'm not, like, I've seen a lot of people say, like, I'm definitely changing my main, and I think that's amazing because that's what elite specs are supposed to be. They're supposed to give a class a totally different way to play that it didn't have access to before. And in doing so, hopefully entice players to spread their wings a little bit and get out there and play these other classes. For me, Soul Beast stances in general need quite a bit of numerical work, let's just say, mathematical work.
Ranger in general does, man.
The cooldowns, I feel like, are fairly prohibitive and really are a detriment to uptime. You have a cool stance like Yak Stance, and you have the ability to share that stance, which gives 6 seconds of stability, but then it goes on a 30-second cooldown. That's literally good for one push in World vs. World. You'll only get one use out of that. It's just not substantial enough in the place that it's going to be most useful. And a lot of the stances sort of suffer from this same sort of thing. Now, combining with your beast actually works really well. There is a little bit perhaps clunkiness there, in where you need to use the pets, soul beast beast mode, then unbeast mode, swap pets, use the skill, then beast mode. realistically, you're not going to have time in most situations to do all that stuff. Not easily anyway, and it's going to feel a bit awkward and such. And so I've seen some suggestions where just let them switch inside beast mode and then come in and come out. And I don't think it's as easy as just plug and play for that. I think that needs a lot more testing. But beast mode itself felt good. The skills that were there, for the most part, all felt where they should have been. And there's a lot of pets in the game. You don't realize how many pets there are because a lot of them before Soul Beast are semi-irrelevant, depending on the content that you're playing. But even the new pets that they added all have good flavor, all have, I think, usable abilities, usable utility, which is really what pets are for rangers. And so that is sort of a step in the right direction. Now, the other positive is I kept looking at this from a Condi Ranger perspective because they nerfed, it's kind of interesting, they nerfed Condi Ranger to introduce Soul Beast, which is going to bring Condi Ranger probably up to where it used to be, if not slightly better than it used to be. And that's not the interesting part. That's sort of the boring part. The interesting part is that it looks like Power Ranger, which currently only has about a 3k DPS difference, which pushes it out of the higher end metas. It's possible, it needs a lot of testing still, obviously, on a PvE golem, but it's possible that the Sikkim combination, which is a lot of fun to use, admittedly, is going to push Power Ranger perhaps into a much better, closer battle with Condi Ranger, meaning that it's possible you'll be able to play these multiple builds within Soul Beast and be very effective in the content that you're playing. So that is sort of the exciting part for me, and I think for a number of people, is that not only will Condi Soul Beast be a thing for sure, but Power Soul Beast has the possibility of being very competitive as well, if there isn't some kind of hybrid that happens, which we've seen with the one gear set that comes with Path of Fire. It's a Power Condi mix, and so I think that there's a couple of elite specializations, Soul Beast being one of them, that might be able to take advantage of this armor set.
Inks has got this figured out.
Yeah.
and now that I think about it, I kind of agree that I think that they should do another demo weekend for the elite specs, because they put them out how they think they should be, and then they get all this feedback from from the PvP demo weekend, and then hopefully they can tweak the numbers and then have another one and do a final tweak, rather than doing this first tweak, launching POF, and then having to do that second tweak, like a week or two or a month or however long
after launch.
Launch, once everybody's already gotten all the builds figured out and everything. And so yeah, I hope there is another there's another demo weekend for that. I probably won't play it. I really want to wait until launch, because I want everything to be like fresh and new, have a month to kind of wipe my memory of everything, and then have it be like magical again,
Yeah.
on the 22nd. In 1 month exactly. So.
Yeah, and I want to thank you,
It is
Roka,
smooth,
for sort of helping brainstorm a lot of this stuff. I was watching as many Ranger streamers as I could get to get their impression on it, because a lot of times as a player, especially if you're invested in a particular class. Now, I'm a very niche player in that I play, right now, I only play Ranger. And I think most people probably play 2 or 3 classes, or they probably should be playing 2 or 3 classes to get more value out of the game. So I was going around finding as many Ranger players as I could get to see if my impressions were on or off base. And, I don't know. I think that stuff is really interesting. I also seen a lot of people real quickly addressing the weekend about, they're so focused on numbers. They're so worried about this is OP and that is OP. And don't get me wrong, there's constructive criticism in there. There's important information in there. But they're so focused on that point that that's all that they care about.
You gotta have the numbers, man. Gotta have
and
the
sure,
numbers.
yeah, don't get me wrong, that stuff is important to a point, but you have to remember that elite specializations are not supposed to be standard upgrades over each other. Standard upgrades over the core spec, absolutely. But, you know, for example, Soul Beast is not necessarily supposed to be an upgrade over Druid. And they're supposed to play differently, but be fairly equal depending on what they do. And that means, for the example with Warrior's case and Spellbreaker, that means that sometimes you're going to get an elite specialization that doesn't shine or do well in a particular game mode.
Yeah.
And I understand, in a new expansion, you want to play the new hotness, and you want to play, you want to play the new elite spec, and you want it to be awesome in the game mode that you enjoy the most. But as we get deeper and deeper into this, and we get more expansions and more elite specializations to choose from, the elite specialization that launches, that is the new thing, might not be the best thing in the game mode that you play. Mm-hmm. And Warrior is a great example, because Berserker is what you'll play in PvE. Spellbreaker will not be a top tier, top end. Now, you can play whatever you want, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be in the viable meta. And I'm not even talking about the strict meta where it's got to be this and that and whatever. Raids are so soft that you can play a variety of builds and still be really successful. So yeah, you can take a Spellbreaker in there, but it's not going to be what people really look for to be the Warrior spec to bring to that type of content. However, on structured PvP in World vs. World, it's going to be Spellbreaker. It's not going to be Berserker, generally speaking. So there's sort of a nice mix there, I think. And and that goes for multiple elite specializations, not just Spellbreaker. That's just an easy example. And I don't think people quite. I don't think they quite want to accept that just yet. Yeah. And I do get it. I do understand, but it breeds this sort of feeling of discontent with the developers. They don't know what they're doing. Oh my God. And my class sucks. How could you ruin the class that I have loved since day one? You know, I get it, right? I have those feelings too, but at the end of the day, it's about what's best for the longevity of the game, and not
your power fantasy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be balanced, and you know, we're going to be seeing lots of balance patches in the next couple of weeks and after the launch.
Oh yeah,
but that's how it goes.
And they want to give these they want to give the spec something, every profession something that they don't have, And do you just want another Berserker? I mean, do you just want another powerful warrior? Spec that does the same thing? Like it already has. You have your power warrior, you have your Kandi warrior. Well, hey, Spellbreaker is something new and different. It's a new way to play warrior. And I know that not everybody wants to play the new shiny, but you got to accept that they want to extend the professions and give you a new way to play. And unfortunately, that's not always going to be your game mode.
Yeah.
Wish it was, but it's not.
Your Ranger's not broken. He's fine. Trust me. He's fine.
He's fine.
Ranger's fine.
Go get your Gazelle and run over people for 30,000 damage until they fix it. It's fine.
Oh no.
Gazelle boy is where it's at.
Yeah.
I do like funny. The ammo system. Yeah, I like that they extended that to the core classes as well in the first elite specs. So far I like it. I guess I've got no complaints about it. They made Guardian Spirit weapons a thing again. How can I be upset? Look at you with your
sword maybe. But
oh my goodness.
All of the elite specializations that I played, I found positives in. I'll say that much. And I think that that's great. I think like even Mirage, which Mesmer is a class that I am no good at. I don't fully understand it. Yeah, I am not the person you want advice from. And I've seen lots of people sort of speak about Mirage. It's not very good and it lacks all these things. And those are all fair criticisms. I don't think anything is wrong with that. But I still had fun playing Mirage. There's problems with how one of the things is you're meant to shatter things, but Mirage doesn't really want to shatter things, but it wants you to, but it's not good for you to do it. Anyway, but you're zipping all over the place, and you're in a million different spots at once, and I don't know. I just, it might not have been the most effective thing, but I had fun with it.
I had fun with it too, actually. And again, that's just pushing buttons, because I don't mesmer at all. I heard someone saying, "Oh, Mirage isn't as flashy as the other classes. You know, Hollowsmith super flashy, and Firebrand is super flashy, and even Spellbreaker is super flashy." Well, I said, "Well, it's a Mirage. You're not supposed to know where they are, and so if they're making all these super flashiness, then you know which one is the real one. So it can't be super flashy."
And I'm not really so much worried about numbers right now. There's going to be there's going to be multiple balance patches. I'll be more concerned about numbers 2 to 3 months after the game launches. So, you know, when we get to December, if things are a mess, then I'll worry about it. But right now, I'm not quite as concerned with this is OP and this is undertuned and all the craziness.
All I can say about Weaver is good luck, guys, because, oh my god. I mean, I love how it works, but there's no way I could ever push that many buttons at once. It's just insane. Like, I was saying, it's solidified. I've been looking for a light armor class to specialize in, because I've got my heavy and I've got my medium, and I either was going to go, I've been trying to figure out whether I want to go Necromancer or Elementalist, and I was like, I will never learn Weaver. It's just too complicated for me. I was like, I'm definitely going to, and Scourge looks like it could be pretty cool, so it's like, I'm definitely going Necromancer. Feels less complicated.
It's one of those things that I think you just need to spend time with, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just got to learn your rotation. You got to.
I think Weaver has a fantastic opportunity for those people willing to spend time with, to have big payoffs for enjoyment, right? Knowing which attunements to switch into that have which skills you need at a given time, I think is part of the charm of Weaver. And so for those who enjoy that, then that payoff of enjoyment is going to be big, I think, which is good. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to wrap up the live show here, and we'll do a brief post show for everybody who's watching live on Twitch. We'll answer some questions, so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. For everyone watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Scroll down into the description right now and click all the links. Follow these guys for more Guild Wars 2 content, infos, vlogs, news, all kinds of good stuff. Yeah. Lots of stuff. Follow them on Twitch as well. And thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time. Take care, guys. Okay, bye.
Just watching, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.